Right now, there is a war going on in Israel versus the Palestinian people, more so Hamas. What if this was just one branch that was found that was trying to dig tunnels all through New York in an effort to plan a terrorist attack? 12 Jews were arrested in a New York synagogue for some pretty crazy, interesting, and what's the best word? Um, Scary reasons. Now, you might not think it's scary when you hear the story, but to us, it's scary for multiple reasons, and we'll lay each one out, and you get to decide for yourself which one you think it is, because we are not asserting that we know for sure, but we do have some scenarios that we're going to lay out for you, and you being the deductive thinkers that you are, well, you can do your own little reasonings through it, see if we have any merit to it, see if it makes any sense, or better yet, if we're right about any of them. So we have a few. So the situation is this. In a synagogue in New York, there were some men, 12 to be exact, arrested after being found in a tunnel behind the synagogue. Now, they became combative with the police. They got arrested, a couple of them for battery and a couple of them for destroying public property and all that kind of stuff. But that's beside the point, because none of them got really arrested for smuggling or anything like that. So whatever they got arrested for really had nothing to do with the tunnel, which is kind of weird to us because we didn't see them talk about the reasons for the tunnel, really, or why it was even there, or what role the men had in the tunnel. They steered clear of that. So it made us kind of think, why was there a tunnel there? Here's what we came up with, okay? I'm going to lay out a few scenarios for you, and you can decide whether or not it has any merit. Option one, the tunnel was there to smuggle children. Now, some may think, well, it doesn't seem to be very plausible that you could smuggle children, so let's lay this out a little bit better. You have a wall, a breachable wall, there's a tunnel behind it, the tunnel leads to a main street. At least that's what it looks like from the video footage. It seems as though that the tunnel was dug through some grates in the sidewalk on the adjacent street. They can go down, get into the building, and thereby have access to the synagogue. But why? Why would one have a tunnel there, of all places? Option one, like I said, is child trafficking. How easy would it be? Well, you have the kids being dropped off at the synagogue. They can easily be taken, put through this tunnel. You have a large crowd outside on the sidewalk where the tunnel comes up. You grab the kid, you're gone. Option one, pretty easy, pretty cut and dry. And you don't have to do it in mass, you just have to do it often enough. We're not saying that is what it is. We're giving you scenarios as to why a tunnel could possibly even be at a synagogue. Option two, drug trade. Now, we're not talking necessarily a massive drug trade, although it could be because there's enough space. We're mostly talking about the fact that they can be peddling, and we're planning to peddle more than they got around to before the tunnel was either discovered by these men, which is why they were arrested, or created by these men, which is why they were arrested. No drugs were found, obviously, but we're still not told why the tunnels were there. The scarier option, which is number three, is the one that gave us the most pause. Now, hear us out. Right now, there is a war going on in Israel versus the Palestinian people, more so Hamas, who are using the Palestinians as shields, right? Okay. So we know that America has its own ties in that war, blah, 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 blah. We know that we have Jews living here, on and on and on. What if, just what if, this was just one branch that was found that was trying to dig tunnels all through New York in an effort to plan a terrorist attack? Now, I know it may sound far-fetched. It sounds crazy. Like, man, you all know how to stretch and all. But here's my point. We don't know. And as long as we don't know, speculation has to kind of take a little bit of a forefront. Because I'm not going to sit by and just assume the best of people. I'm done. I'm done doing that. I don't trust people enough to assume the best of them. I have learned now that the heart of man is deceitful above all things, and I have to assume the worst before I see the best. You have to prove to me that you're good, or even have good intentions for me to even assume that later. For now, I'm not assuming anything good of the situation. If there was indeed an attempt to dig multiple tunnels throughout various locations, and this just happens to be one, in order for when they want to kick things off, New York can be the first to go. Option? Yep. Plausibility? High. Reality? Unknown. because they're not saying anything. No investigation into the tunnel. They give some sporadic. In fact, there's been like multiple sporadic stories about the why the tunnel, who the tunnel, and when the tunnel. Nobody seems to know exactly why the tunnel were there, who built the tunnel. Was it there beforehand? Was it there because of the people that own the synagogue? Was it some stray people, some random? They don't say nothing. But what they did do a good job of is confusing the mess out of you. If you were to read this article, I'm going to predict your reaction. You'll be reading it, you're like, yeah. And then you'll be like, okay, no, no. And then when you get to the meat of it, you're like, oh, it's going to give me the answer. I guarantee you're going to leave with more questions than answers because they don't answer any questions. They leave more off the table than they ever present to you as to why the situation happened. Like I said before, the arrests were not based on the tunnel. The arrests were made as a discovery part because people were saying, hey, look, look, look. And the fight broke out. They went against the cops. They got arrested. My question is, would they have been arrested had they just shown up? That's the bigger question. Did they do anything before attacking or fighting with police that would warrant their arrest? In fact, would the person that is head over the synagogue has anything or any say over what happened there? Is he going to be held to account? Because after all, the tunnel is built to his location, right? So why isn't he being questioned? Why are only the 12 that were part of the, how's the best word, the fighting to be arrested? How come he hasn't been questioned? Or at least we haven't been told. It is happening on American soil, is it not? It seems like a pretty big deal. There's some random tunnel found underneath or next to a synagogue, and you just happen to have a broken out wall. And then the very next day, or a couple of days later, you find a way to seal it up right. Just like that, you just seal it up. Okay. Well, I guess the story will flesh itself out eventually. The bigger question will be whether or not we'll get any answers after it's fleshed out, or even if it'll be fleshed out in the public eye, because I highly doubt they'll flesh this out for us to see. You may hear about it later on. Oh, the 12 have been going to court, and you'll hear about their court case. And you hear their charges against what they did against the cops. And you may never hear anything about those tunnels again. But if you have some information, drop it in the comment section. If you have an opinion, drop it in the comment section. If you think any of the 3 scenarios make sense, drop it in the comment section, because we want to see if any of you think the same way we think after reading the articles about this. Because none of it makes sense and none of it gives clarification. But they sure did arrest 12 people. I find the number kind of odd too, but hey, I'm not a numerologist. I'm just telling you, the 12 seems kind of weird. So, with that being said, we will be keeping an eye on the story. We'll see if anything comes up about it. And well, no pun intended, we're going to run this tunnel down to the end to see exactly where it goes. But we may or may not find a rabbit. But whatever we find, you'll be the first to know, or possibly the second. Depends on who we talk to. And when we find out, we'll let you know. Stay tuned to Too Strong.